right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Camels Vlogcast. I'm your host, Justin Rich. My guest today is author Kevin Potter. I'm going to bring him on. We're going to talk books, dragons, a little more, and hope you guys enjoy the show. All right, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
So tell us about yourself. I know you're an author, but when did you start writing?
Unofficially, I started when I was about seven, honestly. Just a little short story then. Did it off and on for a good while after that. But didn't really start getting serious about it until about 2013. I found myself with an abundance of time and a story that was just popping away in my head and just started banging that out.
So what is your genre of writing, and how did you discover that?
I do a couple of different things, but right now what I'm really focusing on is my epic fantasy, which is centered largely on dragons and other creatures that you don't usually see get the spotlight in fantasy books.
Great. So what is your recent book you've published, and when did you start that process? What was that process like, and the name of it, and then the process of writing it?
Okay, so the nearest one I've got one coming out next month, which is called Revenge of the Overlords. It's book four in a series. Sorry, and it's been a process. I mean, especially with everything that's been going on with the pandemic and whatnot. It's creatively, it's not been working quite as well as I would have liked.
Great. So what inspired you to start writing more seriously? I know you started about 2013. You said more seriously, but what inspired you to actually get like more serious about publishing your work?
Um, it was a combination of things. I was at a different place in my life. I had more time than I had before, and it, a lot of it was just the story was just burning at me, and I couldn't keep putting it off. I didn't really seriously decide to publish until around 2016, published my first book in 2017, which interestingly enough ended up being a completely different story. Because I eventually came to the realization that that original story that I wanted to write, I'm just not good enough to do it justice yet. So it's on the back burner while I'm writing other things until I feel that I'm ready for it.
So two-part question: what makes you unique as an author, and who do you study as like in your genre, and like who do you like inspire? Who inspires you like as an author?
I think my main inspiration influences are probably authors like Robert Jordan and C.S. Friedman. They both write really long, kind of dark, epic fantasy, which is just right up my alley. Um, and sorry, I'm drawing a blank. The other part of the question.
Oh yeah. So what makes you like unique in your
Oh,
works?
right. Uh, Honestly, I think a lot of it comes down to character points of view. Like a lot of authors prefer to shy away from things that they don't feel people would really understand. I'm talking, points of view monsters like, dragons and trolls and orcs and stuff like this that don't usually see a spotlight in fantasy books, or if they do, it's for a couple of pages to show people why they're the villain. And I feel like those creatures should be a lot more complex than that. So I set out to write a series of books that's just all dragons. There's almost no humans in it at all. And I wanted to show a society and a culture, and that these creatures are more than just a monster.
Okay. So are you more of like a plotter when you're writing, or more of a pantser when you're writing?
I'm definitely more of a pantser. I would say I'm probably to the tune of about 90% pantser. I have a rough idea of what's going on when I start, maybe a couple of plot points in between, and I have a general idea of how I want it to end. And everything else I just sort of come up with as I write it.
So as a pantser, is you were you more in tune to self-publish or go to publishing route?
Um, when I first started writing, I had plans of getting a publishing deal with a big publishing house. But the more I looked into it, the more I realized that for most of what I want to write, self-publishing is just a better way to go.
Okay, great. So, what are some of your methods of branding and promoting yourself on the business side? I know the writing side is like you're expert on that probably, but the business side, a lot of authors they struggle with though. So, how did that work for you?
It's definitely something that I struggle with. I'm naturally pretty introverted, so putting myself out there is a challenge for me. Um, I, I I do a little bit of your traditional like internet marketing type stuff, but other than that, it's mostly I don't even know that I can call it branding or marketing per se. It's just I try to be as open as I can in the communities that I write for, and just have natural conversations with people, and then let that lead into what I write.
Great. So, as a writer, like, there's always that line between perfect and imperfect though. How do you get that balance of like not trying to do too much but not trying to do too little in your writing, so the audience gets what you're trying to say?
Um, it's not something that I really think about a lot.
Mm.
I feel like it just sort of comes naturally that I just have a general idea of what I want to do, and I try not to spend too much time on any one thing because I don't want to bog myself down in this little detail here that's a big deal to me, when experience has taught me that 9 times out of 10, even though that's a big deal to me, most of my readers don't care.
Mm. Okay.
I, I try to I don't try to let go of most of it.
So who is your audience? And if you could like talk about who you want to expand to, though. Who is your audience now, and who would you like to see your readership as it grows?
At this point, my audience is a little hard to pin down. It's primarily older adults at this point, um, and I don't really know a whole lot more about what kinds of people are reading my books at this point. What I'd really like to do is find a way to expand into a younger audience market, which is a little bit tricky to do because most of them, like teenagers and stuff, they don't usually read ebooks these days, and that's where most of my sales come from. As an indie author, print books are a challenge just because I can't price them as low as a big publishing house can.
Mm. That's great. So, what do you want people to take away from your books when you're writing? Since you don't know your audience, say you're out there like somebody that you don't know or somebody that may look interested in your genre. Why should somebody read your book? What do you want them to take away from it?
Honestly, the only thing I'm looking to provide is just pure entertainment. I'm not trying to send a message. I'm not trying to teach anybody anything. Uh, Undoubtedly, people will get some of that from my books just from the nature of the subject, but that's not really my intention going into it. I just want to write good, entertaining books.
Great. So, you've been writing for a couple of years now and published for author for a couple of years now. So, if you could give advice out there to young authors and authors struggling out there, that'd be great.
The biggest things that I would say to a new author is just first and foremost, just keep writing. I mean, it seems kind of pithy, I realize, but keep writing, finish what you write. That's probably the biggest thing. Is if you start something and then you quit in the middle, you didn't really learn a whole lot from that. Whereas when you finish it, you've seen the whole experience, and you can take that and you can improve on it next time.
Great. So, in terms of creativity during this quarantine, though, how has it been affected from like this? It started in March to like now. How has it like been affected? So, have you found like more, writing less, or
Creativity has definitely been a challenge for me with the quarantine and everything going on. I just have not been able to keep my head in the story very much, so it's definitely been a challenge.
So transition back to your next project too. Let's talk about that a little bit too. What inspired that, and what do you hope to see to come of this?
Okay, well, I mean, it's an ongoing series. I've been working on this for a few years now. Like I said, the fourth book is about to come out. The next book is it's sort of the tragic part of the story where things are not really going to work out the way characters wanted it to. And so it's definitely going to take a downward turn before things come back up.
So we talked a little about the writing side too, but what would you like to expand on and learn about more of? I know we talked a little about marketing, but what specifically would you like to learn about more?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think the biggest thing that I need to get my head around and figure out really is just getting to a point where I can put myself out there and, really just fully gung-ho, put myself in the spotlight. That's definitely something I've always struggled with.
So I know you said in the beginning you want to have like your focus genre is like dragons, but how do you like if you want to expand that? How do you not get yourself typecast and break it out of a box? Like if you want to expand on your genre, expand on like another genre, or expand like to another subgenre.
Well, I've got 2 other stories that I'm working toward. One of them it's still very much epic fantasy, sword and sorcery type stuff, but it opens up to a more traditional type of story. Where I've got humans and elves and dwarves and all that, and that's gonna play out in a whole different way than what I'm doing right now. And then I've got the story that I've had sitting on the back burner for a few years is actually completely different. It's almost real world setting. There's a little bit of a fantasy element to it, but it's my version basically of the biblical apocalypse. And so I'm really excited to get to that as soon as I feel that I'm ready to really do that story justice.
Great. So I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story. Anything else you'd like to plug or like share with the audience?
I think all I've got is if anybody wants to check out my first book for free, it's called Dawn of the Overlord. You can find it on any retailer. And the ebooks are always free on that one.
And what are your social media tags so people can find you?
Sorry?
Websites and social media tags like Facebook, Twitter, and all that.
Oh, okay. My Facebook page is at kpotter.fiction. That's my main author page there. On Twitter, I'm at kpotterbooks.
All right. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. It's been great having you on.
Thank you so much.
And this has been the Countless Vlogcast with my guest, author Kevin Potter. Make sure you guys check him out. Make sure you guys, if you watch this on YouTube, the Countless Vlogcast. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Kevin, for coming on.
Of course. Have a good one.